So prior to James Gunn landing the gig to, at the time, develop a standalone Superman film that was going to run hand in hand and alongside the new DCEU that was set to kick off with Black Adam reinvigorating the franchise, they were making a Man of Steel 2 directed by Michael Bay. So to save the franchise, they were gonna get a worse director? What the Okay, so there was rumors in regards to this years ago, but they were never confirmed, and it was just kind of a loose rumor that was out there. But today, The Wrap released a pretty extensive article about WB Discovery and, stuff about the new Superman film, which I'm going to dive deeper into in a much longer video when it comes to that specific film and a lot of what they highlighted. But, right here, just for this video, I have to talk about this shocking revelation in there. Because they confirmed that, yes, WB and DC were still trying to salvage the DCEU at the time. And in 2022, they were actively pursuing directors for Man of Steel 2. Now, this would have been after Mission Impossible Fallout's director was turned down with his pitch and Henry Cavill, which would have been a Man of Steel sequel, yet small reinvention, but still would have been in the DCEU. So they were set to reboot the DC universe with a standalone film that could potentially grow into more with James Gunn at the helm. And of course, they were still banking big on the DCEU, and they were sold a bag of goods by The Rock that, hey, I'm going to make billions of dollars for you guys. We're bringing back Cavill. And at the time when this was all in motion, it turns out that the rumors are true, and they did talk and start developing a sequel to Man of Steel, which would star Henry Cavill, but would be directed by the man who single-handedly botched Transformers like 7 times over. Yes, Michael Bay. Well, that's a choice, all right. Look, I get why WB would think Michael Bay can do this. I get it. Him and Snyder are friends. They went to the same film school. They learned the same thing. They're the same, cut from the same cloth, as the saying goes. So I can see the, process here. We don't want the guy that failed us, but what if we get the guy that's just like him that brought in billions by making terrible Transformers films? Tons of action, nonsense. I get it. So this would have essentially been that Man of Steel sequel that they're teasing at the end of Black Adam before James Gunn and Safran saw how everything was shaping up and said, yeah, you know what? This isn't going to go anywhere, so we're not doing this. I can't tell you how glad I am that this never materialized, because, my God, this would have been the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of Superman films. It would have just been too much going on at once, and it would have fallen apart at the seams the moment you looked at it. And sure, just like the Amazing Spider-Man 2, another parallel I can make is that it would have been essentially like a softish reboot. Hey, they didn't like the dark tone or anything. Make it friendlier, make it more action, do this and that. Essentially Spider-Man 1 or TASM 1 to TASM 2, just reinvent it and try to move on, try to make it more of what fans want. But that's the problem with Michael Bay, is he doesn't do what the fans want. He does what Michael Bay wants. And once people woke up to the quality of the Transformers films and they grew past the age of 14, they realized that those films are bad once they saw better films. So, yeah. No, this would have been terrible. Absolutely terrible. But I think some of you also forget that Man of Steel 2 was already in this sort of like gestation period where they had ideas for what it was going to do, especially after Black Adam. And we would have got a wild DCEU after Black Adam. So let's talk about Man of Steel 2, Justice League 2, and Black Adam 2. Okay, so the plan was, as it was revealed, and I wish these videos were still on the channel, but sadly WB copyrighted every single one of them, so they had to be taken down. So the history, I can't just, refer to the video and link it for you guys. But the idea was that Black Adam was going to be a big billion-dollar hit. That's what they were riding on. And they started to develop these projects that spin off of it or are sequels to it. Hence why Henry Cavill at the time was part of The Rock's agency, or they worked for the same agency, had the same manager, and they got Cavill back. He was given a new contract. So the idea was to make Black Adam the big bad of the entire DC universe. And Black Adam 2 was going to happen, but Black Adam 2 would have been Black Adam versus Superman. But before that, we would have seen a Man of Steel 2 that picks up after Justice League and after the ending of Black Adam. And once he fires a warning shot across Adam's bow, he kind of stays in his place, and he's like, okay, I'm doing my own thing over here. You stay in Kondak and do your own thing, right? Cool. So Man of Steel 2 would have been, from everything we know, and them hiring and talking to Michael Bay, would have definitely 100% been this. They saw what he did with Soundwave being a tentacle satellite and said, can you just do this with a green-faced alien and make it Brainiac destroying Metropolis? And we know that as far back as 2023, we got leaks that Brainiac was the one for Man of Steel 2. So we would have got that film. Now, boy, would that have been it would have been a disaster. It would have been cool visually, but again, we're going from fighting Brainiac with Superman to now we got to scale it down, and now we got to fight Black Adam. Because the big idea was that The Rock sold them is, you're not doing Darkseid, you're not doing all this other stuff. The Rock is the final boss. And what we know from leaks is that they weren't going to defeat Black Adam. He was just kind of going to be like, look, you're never going to stop me, but I'm going to help you defeat Darkseid in Justice League 3, because we got stuff in the works. And I can't be beat. I'm The Rock. So let's do this. So Justice League 3 would have been the Justice League and Black Adam versus the New Gods. Now, we also know that this is factual because at the time they were developing the Strange Adventures TV series, part of the DCEU and the rebooted Green Lantern Corps series, and all of them were meant to converge all in these Justice League films that all click together and work in tandem. And there was even reports that Man of Steel 3 was going to happen after Justice League, and that, again, it was going to bring things back in the fold. And remember, when it comes to the likes of Michael Bay, he likes to do things in a different way. He likes to do things in a more spectacular nature. Go bigger, right? Bigger every time. So you kind of get the sense that they were planning out a good decade ahead. And then once Black Adam came crashing and burning, they saw the writing on the wall and it told them, you know what, we got to pull back. So in the end, we now are on the verge of a Superman reboot. Now, whether or not that succeeds, I don't know. But I can safely say I'm glad we did not get Michael Bay's Man of Steel 2. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.